My name's Brian, and I'm from Manchester. So actually here I have today my lovely teammates Michelle from Rochester, New York, and Liz from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now we're just one of 5 teams traveling across North America, educating and inspiring our generation to support the North Korean people. Now we do that because we share the collective belief that the North Korean people will be free in our lifetime. So on a show of hands, does anyone think that sounds a little bit crazy? You can be honest. You got a few hands. That's cool. So, no, it's okay.
I hope so.
Now, it's understandable because, for years, international politics and media have really shaped the way that we view North Korea. It's hard for anyone to imagine anything about the country beyond nuclear weapons, crazy dictators, Dennis Rodman, anybody? So maybe I'm sure you're all familiar with clips. The manufactured image of North Korea is completely wrong, and that's because it ignores the only hope for change, which is the people. Now, our understanding of North Korea often ignores the 24 million people most affected by this ruthless regime. Today, we're here to share how the North Korean people are working to overcome the regime's control and what we can do to help. So, to do that, and to fit into the next 25 minutes, we have to understand discuss the 3 most important things for the outside world to understand about North Korea. First, this is a big deal. This issue is one of the biggest challenges facing humanity today. Secondly, the North Korean people are driving changes within their country right now. And finally, we can help. You, me, we can all stand alongside the North Korean people and accelerate these changes. So to begin, it would help to understand the massive scale of atrocities that the North Korean people are up against. The North Korean government is widely recognized as one of the most repressive in the world. It denies the basic freedoms of speech and religion to its people while trying to keep outside information and ideas from getting in. And before we discuss the depths of these challenges, it would help for us to understand where North Korea came from. So has everyone learned kind of, whether it's through school or I guess personal research in the news about North Korean history? A little bit here and there. So as you know, there's a lot there. There's a lot of information. And so definitely we could talk about North Korean history all day long. But no one wants to do that. For the past 60 years, the North Korean government has established a ruthless system of control to ensure that it stays in power. Now, this leaves 24 million ordinary people vulnerable to some of the cruelest and longest running oppression in history. And it's not just a political oppression, it's also an economic oppression. The people live in an enforced poverty, causing widespread malnutrition and health problems. Now, has anyone read or heard of the book Escape from Camp 14? Awesome, a few people. Handful. Now, the story of our friend Shin Dong-hyuk emphasizes this reality. For those of you that don't know, Shin was born inside one of North Korea's political prison camps. And his only supposed crime for being born into this camp was that his uncle fled to South Korea. So that means before he was even born, Shin was sentenced to a life inside one of history's most harshest and inhumane political prison camps, simply because of his uncle's actions. Now the conditions inside these camps are horrific. Torture, execution, and sexual assault are all commonplace. Anyone who tries to stand up against the regime faces public execution or spot inside one of these 5 political prison camps, along with 3 generations of their family. Now that includes children, explaining why Shin was born into this camp. The North Korean government, as we discussed earlier, denies the basic rights of all of its citizens. Now a question, how many people have left the country before? Left their home country? Good number of people. Now, has everyone left their hometown? That's about everybody. So, in North Korea, it's actually illegal to leave the country without the government's permission. The government also restricts the movement of its people by requiring special permits to leave even their own cities and villages. So that's like having to get permission from the US government before traveling from here to Boston. Now on top of that, the North Korean government denies the basic freedoms of speech, religion, and information, threatening harsh punishment on anyone who challenges the status quo. Now the government knows very well that this outside information threatens their propaganda and weakens their credibility. So it goes to great lengths to ensure that the people stay isolated from the outside world. Now, I know I sometimes watch Korean movies. I love kind of the cinematography there. Does anyone watch any foreign movies, French films, South Korean dramas, anything like that, anime? I'm sure there's some out there. Now, something like that is treated as a serious crime inside North Korea. Getting caught watching South Korean dramas or Hollywood films, listening to foreign radio stations, is treated very seriously if you're caught. Now, every year, thousands of North Koreans are fleeing this political and economic oppression, but even still, they're not safe. And they actually have to flee into China because it's pretty much impossible to cross the heavily militarized border into South Korea. Now, unfortunately, even after their daring escape, they're still not free from the regime's grips. If caught inside China, North Korean refugees will be forcibly sent back into North Korea by Chinese authorities. North Koreans caught after escaping face harsh punishment or death. Now, this forces North Korean refugees into hiding, making them extremely vulnerable to exploitation. Countless North Korean refugee women have been sold as brides against their will, trafficked, and exploited. As a matter of fact, it's estimated that 70 to 80% of North Korean refugee women hiding in China have been trafficked and exploited. Now, as you can see, the North Korean government is absolutely obsessed with controlling every aspect of life for the ordinary North Korean. The system of oppression denies their human potential and forces them to live in poverty. That's why this is one of the biggest challenges facing humanity today. And that's the bad news. But also, we want to share with you the good news. And that's the North Korean people. Pressure for change has already begun, and it's being driven by the very people this system of oppression was meant to control. The system that the government is using to control its people is no longer sustainable, which is why we actually want to show you the 6 reasons why the North Korean people will be free in our lifetime.